Hello and welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. Every week, I, as always, am Brian.
And I, usually, as always, am Lizzie.
This is the Emo Social Club podcast. We talk about pop culture. We talk about music news. We talk about the emo scene. We talk a little bit about politics of the day. But for the most part today, we're going to be talking about some current music news. We are talking a little bit about newsletters because Lizzie has been working on her own newsletter. And we're interested in talking a little bit more about the process of that, on the process of creating newsletters. If you want to do it, as we try to do here every so often, as we tell you, you can do the same shit we do at home. Try this at home, please. So we talk a little bit about newsletters. I'm sure Lizzie will give you the link to subscribe to that newsletter. We also talk about Smash Mouth and fucking... people are putting on concerts now, so that's great. And we give you some new music, and we also talk about WAP. WAP?
WAP?
New music of WAP, whatever that is. I don't know. I haven't even accidentally listened to it, so who knows. But before we get into all that, Lizzie, what's going on with you this week? What? First of all, what is going on with you?
What is going on with me? Well, first of all, that's a loaded question.
Yes, I know. Let's unload it. Lizzie, what you got going on this week?
Besides finishing my last couple weeks of my summer class, which is a lot, I still am working on my newsletter. Just put out something this past week. You can go check it out at burntcds.substack.com. You can subscribe if you want. That'd be cool if you did. It'd be nice if you did. Or you can just read it, and then you can say if you like it or not. Whatever works for you. Otherwise, I don't have too much going on at the moment, but I will say if you are wondering where emo yoga went, well, it's because a lot of things happened in my life, and I got very busy on Mondays for a little bit, and then I got very tired. And then we started to reevaluate certain things on the pod and streaming. So if you have any inkling or any suggestions of when you would like to do emo yoga, the closest that I have gone to is people like to do it at night when we were usually doing it around 7 o'clock. So maybe we move it up earlier, or in the morning, which would absolutely fucking kill me. I am not a morning person. I don't know how people do yoga in the morning. Doesn't vibe with me, but if it may be that, maybe that. And how consistently you wanted it. Some people wanted it more than one time a week, which I was kind of surprised about, or to do it monthly. Like we have seen here out at like Beat Kitchen, they have done heavy metal yoga monthly or every other month. So if you miss it or would want to try it out, because I think I made some sick playlists for those emo yogas that you can still check out on our Twitch stream and on our Spotify. Drop something in our Twitter or Instagram. I'm primarily manning the Twitter, but I do look at the Instagram, but Brian usually answers more on the Instagram. But whatever works, let us know if you vibe with it, because we'll probably have to try to get it restarted up again, especially with, at least for me, the impending school year coming. So I may be losing my mind just a little bit more.
Hopefully all of it's online. Are you hopefully all your classes are online, right?
Now they are. DePaul just said yesterday that they're integrating most of them online, except for like say you're like an engineering student and you have to be in for a lab or something, which that's not my problem. But I do have to go in now and change all my classes, because the classes I was originally going to take, they ended up being hybrid. So I had to switch out. So now I have to see if I can get back into them and move my entire schedule around.
If I was still in school and they were like, you have to take classes in person, I'd be like, no. I just straight up be like, No.
That's pretty much what I did. I said, no, I
No.
picked a class that was online that was with my schedule, and I really didn't even want to do it. And I was like, maybe it'll be good and challenging. I was like, if I can get back in the other class I really wanted to do, I'm going to do that instead.
Yeah. It's a no for me, dog.
Big no for me, dog.
Big no for me, dog. Yeah.
So Brian, what are you doing?
Fucking nothing. I have been continuing to stream during the day, 11:30 a.m. Chicago time, just playing some video games. We are talking about doing some other stuff. The game I'm playing right now should be done sometime. This comes out on Monday, so it should probably be done today, hopefully. I'll be wrapping it up and then playing the third game in the series. It's this like anime escape room, mystery and intrigue. Like, it's deep, man. There's some shit in that game, and it is intense. And I got like chills today when I got like this one story section, this one timeline. Like, it's horror movie shit. It's great. I highly recommend playing the game on your own, or I don't know. The streams are probably not on there. Maybe you can see the old streams and follow the whole storyline. It's long. Should be wrapping it up soon. Playing the third game in the series, and then thinking about like Resident Evil next, and playing like some Resident Evil from chronological order, starting at 0, going up to probably skipping 5 and 6 and going straight to 7.
Oh.
I don't know. I want more of like the survival horror. I like survival horror and I like puzzles. And I think those just make more sense in what I'm into for me personally. But yeah, it's fun. We're just always like, I don't know, trying to have fun during video game streams because it's Twitch and it's a video game streaming platform. That is what it is. So if you're into that, come join, come hang out, come chat. We are always doing our DJ stream on Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Chicago time. They have been popping. They've been actively popping.
We have been having a lot of people there, and it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's a really good time for people who are like, we're just doing this for fun. We're enjoying the bops and the jams, and we're just glad that a lot of other people are coming to enjoy the bops and the jams with us. So make sure that you are following us on Twitch. You have hit the bell to get notified when we go live. You can also join our Discord at emosocial.club/Discord. We notify you there as well. And if you want to see any videos from our streams, mostly just the podcast right now, I've decided not to make video game streaming or video game videos my life. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button, smash it if that's what you're into. emosocial.club/YouTube. And of course, all the links are in the description of the podcast. And that's enough of that shit. So let's get into our stories.
Well, we're going to start talking about a new medium of outlet for people who want to write, but not be confined or have to pitch to people, essentially, within their writing style. And it's a little bit more personal. Like you probably heard with me, promo at the top of the podcast, this week and the last couple of weeks, newsletters are super huge right now and they have been around because we have obviously gotten newsletters from either, newspapers that we follow or any type of store or restaurant. They'll send newsletters and say, hey, this is what's going on. And it's a little blurb. But now we're seeing a huge resurgence of personalized newsletters, and a lot of it are coming from music writers, at least in this general area that we would hone in on. But there's also ones for other writers. People be like, hey, this is how you do computer shit. Just newsletters obviously be like, hey, this is what's going on in the world, whether you like it or not. And there's also for whatever else you want to do, DIY, home improvement. Are you on HGTV? That type of shit too. But for this purpose here on our podcast, we'll talk about the music part of journalism more when it comes to writing newsletters. So I first found newsletters because somebody was talking about Transit, the band. I still have no idea what the fuck are.
A transit is.
Or the deal is, what the fuck is a transit? Why do people hate them? Why are people up in arms? I don't understand. Someone explain it to us. I don't get it. But it causes the entire music scene to fucking lose their shit. and I don't understand it. I don't know what to tell you guys, but it started off with that and somebody writing a review about it. And I guess the album that was reviewed was 10 years old and people like lost their fucking shit about it. And all of a sudden
Somebody
I saw
reviewed a
newsletter.
10-year-old album.
They review. I mean, we've seen other people review, even older albums. I mean, Pitchfork reviewed 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, which I honestly wouldn't even call a review. It was just them saying, "Hey, remember them?
Yeah.
They sound pretty cool, right? Let's look at it because they're back." And
should we call it like a member review? Like not a member review, like not a review by a member, but like a member this?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, remember this? They're like, you liked this back then, and we probably gave it like a 2.5 or some shit like that. But we won't do that now because we know the emails will be really pissed about it.
But now that it's popular and now that they're coming back, let's go ahead and give it a good score today. Won't you love our magazine?
But as soon as they drop a new album, they'll be like, it's not good. It doesn't sound
Who is this
like
for children, young
who is this?
ladies.
This isn't Japanese breakfast.
What is this?
This isn't local natives.
There's a Japanese breakfast band too. Yeah, there's too many bands with Japanese in the title.
And food items.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, you're good. So the writer of that newsletter is at Miranda Reinhardt, and she has been putting out a lot of other newsletters just about general, musings that she has about other bands. And then it kind of got me, was like, oh, I could just do it just to see. So I started doing it, had some decent feedback, and then I found more people who actually have been doing this longer or have been doing it in like a different way with different like independent like news music outlets. And it's been kind of interesting because it kind of blends your own it's like having a personal memoir in a sense, but also blending it with music. Or sometimes it's saying, hey, I'm into this music, but let's tie it into like something that's going on in the world right now. And it can be more prosy, it can be detailed. There's not a word limit because it's yours and whatever you're doing. And one of the newsletters that I've actually followed for the last like I think about a year or so is Dan Ozzie. He's a really big music writer, and he has like a free one, and then he has a paid subscription, which you get more of his writings and readings than you would with the free version. And that's how also people are starting to make more money on the side, especially writers and journalists, because we don't get paid shit in general, and we're definitely not getting paid shit now.
Yeah.
So it's another way of income too. And it's kind of interesting to see how he's done it as like a traditional music journalism sense, but also being like, hey, here's my 2 cents that I couldn't put in at like, Vice or Rolling Stone, but here's my 2 cents here, but also here's a traditional written like article. So I think it's really cool to see that contrast come to life. So with these other these free newsletters essentially are music writers themselves, or like people who are used to like doing music critiques. So there's James Cassar. He's Get Cerebral on Twitter and on Instagram, I believe. And he used to have this podcast, Stereo Confidential and Modern Vinyl. And they did a lot of really big, deep dives on music reviews. And they would usually take like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on whatever the album was, to kind of deconstruct it. That's the only time I really like music reviews, is when it actually is worth my time. And it's not like, oh my God, guess what? It's so great. Even though it's fucking generic or whatever. It's not fanfare. It's not free promo.
Right.
You pay for promo. And
who pays for promo?
Everybody
pays for promo.
Everyone pays for promo. Please pay for promo. Definitely people work with you to trade these, but please pay for promo, because that's also people who are writers.
The Emo Social Club will take money for promo or tradesies. We'll actually just work with you. Like, it's fine.
We'll just really work with you. We're very open people. Like, it's fine.
Oh my God. How open are we? We're so open.
We're so open.
Just so open
so
right now.
Open.
Anything you got, anything you want to promote, we will accept your email about it.
We will, to an extent. Like, we're still going to evaluate if it fits with our branding and everything like that. Then, Depending, but we're more often than not open to working with you.
The money would be great. The money would really make it work. Anyway, sorry, Lizzie, I interrupted you again. I was just trying to cash in.
No, you're good. You're good. But James Cassar actually put out a his own newsletter one day, and it was about Infinity on High from Fall Out Boy, obviously, and how it was like impactful on his life. And it was really good and really detailed. And then I found that, I retweeted it. And then I kind of got linked up with somebody else who had written something similar. And I was like, wow, there's just a lot of people doing this. And there's like, obviously it's not like an astronomical amount of people being like, oh my God, guess what? Like I have to read this like random person's newsletter. But you get enough people who are interested enough to be like, oh, I kind of want to see like what you're writing, what your perspective is on it. So it's really cool because you also see other people sharing in it. It's also just a good writing exercise overall. So if you've never really written before, or you've only done like me, I just typically do a lot of like news article writing. It's good to kind of like keep yourself like fresh on the creative writing side. So, and that's been really helpful. And with the newsletters too, they've been around obviously for forever. And one of the ones that is kind of interesting that I feel like always gets forgotten about is the Skim. And it's a newsletter, but it basically takes everything that happened overnight in the news and it puts it in a newsletter. And it's like, I think like a paragraph or two each like basically topic line and being like, hey, this shit hit the fan last night. Here's a synopsis of it. This other shit hit the fan last night. Here's another synopsis. But you read it every morning so you get up. Exactly. So you like read it every morning though, so you know like the general news of the world going into wherever you're going, so you can like be kind of informed and have like when we did have water cooler conversations type of thing, be like, oh yeah, doesn't that suck what happened in Beirut? Yeah. You know, you can just talk about shit like that. And I always forget that exists myself because I have to always be up on the news. So for me, that's not useful per se, but I could definitely see how it is for other people who are like, I just want to know what's going on, but I don't want to get too deep into it. So when we look at newsletters as like a new vehicle for like a writing outlet, especially as a revenue outlet, again, like we're not getting paid shit and we never get paid shit. This is like a good side hustle for people because you can add like you can have paid subscriptions like Dan Ozzie if you're that good and like that prolific of a writer. And you know, you can get paid for it, or you can just like in mine, I just put a link to the podcast jar and I'm like, please help us. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hell yeah. We will also just accept tips, like just straight up. You don't even need to have promo.
Cash. You can just tell us what you like and don't like. We'll just, you know, don't be an asshole about it.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. You can do critiques and be not an asshole. Trust me, because I've done those.
Yeah. You can always not be an asshole.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
Consider it. Hey, consider this. Don't be an asshole.
You know.
Yeah, but what you're saying essentially sounds like it's a bit of additional work for people who write or review music or do. I mean, even what we're doing, like with podcasts and stuff, is like you're adding content in a written format as somebody who is a person who does writing in the first place. like what it sounds like is it's somebody who does writing, who thinks about writing, who wants to put out their opinion in a way that is much more readable than like, hey, I have this really like strong opinion. I'm going to type it out on Facebook and the punctuation is my art. And I just keep making a lot of it splattered all over the post.
But the punctuation doesn't matter. I just want to look like I know how to use a semicolon.
Right. Which you don't. You fucking don't. I do. You don't.
I know how to use a semicolon.
We and Lizzie do. I was staring at people on Facebook like, you don't fucking understand. If I'm on Facebook for like maybe 10 minutes a day, maybe. And that's not even every day. And if I see somebody writing something and they use a semicolon, I'm like, bet you used it wrong. Like, bet. But yeah, I mean, it sounds very similar to like a form of promotion through writing. So you would say that like anybody could kind of do this, but it should be like a writer, like somebody like the idea is that it should be somebody who is expressing themselves through the art of words, the written word, movable print.
Oh God.
Sorry. It always reminds me of like the like shit we learned in school about like the movable print. We must keep it from the serfs.
The Guten Tag?
The Guten Tag? The Guten Tag is German for good afternoon.
It's for hello, I know.
That's for good afternoon. Yeah. The Gutenberg, movable print. And we cannot let the serfs have it.
Excuse me, sir. But I think it's just good. It's a good secondary outlet or fourth outlet, knowing how much we don't get paid, how many jobs we have to work.
Yeah.
And it's accessible because you can just sign up for whatever. I know Substack is like the most popular one. I don't know if there's other like newsletter ones that are free, but I'm pretty sure for the platforms there are. I just don't know them personally.
I mean, couldn't you put it on like, I guess.
You could do it on like a site, but then I guess it's just more like a blog.
What is the difference between this and a blog, I guess, in a way?
So for a newsletter, you basically, people will come and they'll like sign up. So they'll like give their email. And then every time that you hit post or publish on your writing, it immediately gets sent to them. And then you can track it if they open it, how many times they open it, and then like the statistics on it. Whereas for a blog, you post it, you do the SEO, you personally post it on whatever socials you want to post it on, and then you kind of hope that people see it.
So it's not like posting on Medium or posting on Facebook. It's like sending an email, like a newsletter email or like something like that, rather than so it's not like hosted in one place. Everybody has to go and look at it in that place. This is like something where it's like, hey, if you want to enjoy my writing, if you want to receive it to your inbox, like here's the link to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, basically is, and it's basically, it's not forced, but if people read it, they can say, okay, I want to see more. But then you can also see as like the writer on, Substack at least shows you how many times like each email has opened the email that was sent for the most recent article.
Yeah.
And it'll also tell you how many people overall have like visited your site to read just your articles in general. So that's also the point that's in there more than like blogs, because I know depending on if you have like Wix or WordPress, you won't get a lot of those statistics unless you pay extra for them. And there's no real way to kind of gauge without it. So it's more accessible than like the typical website, unless you do a blog because that's your thing, whatever. I get it. Yeah. But it also kind of keeps you more diligent because especially in like how many people that I have been following and interacting with like on Twitter with newsletters, it seems like people are putting them out multiple times a week, or there's people starting to slow down a bit because, the momentum of it is starting to fade. But so they're doing it once a week and it seems like it's in the middle of the week. So it kind of makes everyone have to do it to keep relevant with it, to say, oh, I wasn't just a part of the trend. I'm like continuously doing it. So it kind of forces you to make you accountable to do it too, which I find is like super interesting, because with a blog, you just post it and be like, well, only 5 people read this last time. Like, I really don't need to make another one, tomorrow or next week. I could just let it sit there. This kind of, people could call you out and be like, hey, I didn't get like a newsletter from you last week. You usually do like say one a week. So where is it?
Like, I wonder if it's in the world of content, the content of content, you have different like formats, like visual, written, audio, whatever. So like we put out a podcast every week, where it's just us like chilling, talking. Our thoughts and opinions get on the audio medium, which you can't edit. So it's just whatever we say, it comes out and you can't do anything about it. Video, you can edit more and you can make it like more of this like direct thing. We have a YouTube channel that you can watch all of our podcasts on, emosocial.club/YouTube. You can find the link there. And you
can subscribe, and Brian will give your children A's in their class.
I will. Smash that subscribe. That is a reference from before we started recording. That's fine. Yeah, so it like sounds like it's something within all of those things, and like if you make it more of a consistent over time thing, like obviously it will do better for you, but like I think the difference of being that it is like sending it out to somebody like, hey, whatever you're doing, like here is this email for you to read. And of course, you know, when you send it out and all that stuff is part of it. But at the very least, like you have this thing that you are directing to them as opposed to like, hey, we're doing this thing over here, like come this way. And I think that like you're going to end up having more people that are actively interested in what you have to say and what you have to put out, which I guess does make you more accountable than a lot of other things, a lot of other formats. Like we've taken weeks off of the podcast because, you know, we have other shit to do, but it's not like anybody's like, oh yeah, you know, they didn't put out a podcast this week. But like, if you're like, I'm actively coming to you to like get that newsletter, like obviously that person's going to go, oh yeah, I didn't really see that last week. I guess it's like anything though. You could be like, guys, I am busy and I am sorry.
Yeah, so it is like that. I mean, it's really with any medium though, because I know we can even like do that. And I mean, I had never really had anybody be like, hey, like why didn't you post last week? But that's also because we're like putting on our socials like, hey, I didn't do this because, you know, we have a following. Whereas newsletters, you can't really do that. I mean, I guess you could. You could
unless
probably
they also follow you, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
send
like
out an update like, yeah, no newsletter
not
this week. Which is your newsletter that week, I guess.
And then you're like, hey, sorry, I see ya. Peace out next week.
Also,
I guess it would just be weird.
If you hold us accountable, please, if you're listening, like, and we are like, hey, we're not doing a podcast this week, like, hold us accountable. Like, we need that. We need that kick in the ass from our listenership of like, hey, I like what you do. Whose ass can I kick?
If you're on Twitter, you can kick my ass and I'll throw it over to Brian so he can feel the pain too.
Throw it to Brian. Yeah, and you can contact our Instagram and I'll probably respond to you there. Or not. I don't know. It depends on how I feel. Or come to our Twitch streams and you talk shit to me there too.
Yeah, you can bully him. That's fine.
I like it.
Oh,
I think it's funny. It's good content. It's good fucking content when you're bullying the streamer or whomever. Yeah, no, I'm interested. I know you obviously have been writing. You've done a few newsletters for now, and you've also just been writing a lot in general, I guess, because as a news woman, as a news person, as a person who is interested in this sort of life of news, I don't know what you'd call it. Like you're not really like you're not generally like, aside from like our podcast and stuff, you're not like on camera. You're not like the talent, quote unquote, so much.
I'm not doing any of that because I can't do that in the market in which we are in because I'm not a 50-year-old man.
That is a whole other thing.
Real.
That's a whole other piece of shit to weed through. Yeah.
But yeah, for newsletter, yeah, I don't do much front of the camera work because I never really wanted to. So I'm more of like the back end of it and like my professional life outside of this professional life. This is professional, guys. This professional.
This is professional here.
This is professional.
But like, you obviously like have been writing for a long time, for whatever purpose, whether it's for work or for news or for fun. Yeah, I don't know. Like, how do you think it's been going? How do you feel about it? And how do you think like, is it good as like an outlet? Is it good as like a, like, are you like worried about people reading it? Are you worried about like getting it in people's, like getting people to actually respond to it?
I mean, I was worried that nobody was going to give a shit. Obviously, that's everybody's worry with whatever the fuck that they decide to put out. I mean, we worry all the time in general.
I'm constantly worried.
Yeah, we are consistly worried about you guys listening to us. Please keep listening.
The membership fee to this club is anxiety.
But when it like, you always worry that somebody's not going to want to read it. And when I first started, I just did something very general because I didn't know what style of writing I wanted to do. And it seemed okay. I didn't end up liking it too much looking back on it now, all of like a month ago pretty much. But I mean that's how it happens whenever you do any type of writing or any type of media you personally produce. You're always going to probably hate it later on, and as you start to develop your skills more. And it made me want to start writing more things that had happened in my life that I never really wanted to like acknowledge, or like it was very hard for me to speak about, and I've never spoken about certain topics before. And I was like, I know that I can give this out in writing, but I have never put it like pen to paper, but it was like keys to my fingers to the keys basically, because I'm not going to write the whole ass thing out on pen
Isn't
and paper.
That a Fall Out Boy lyric?
Probably.
Put your fingers to the keys or something. It's in one of their songs. I don't know. There's too many lyrics.
Probably. But out of that whole Fall Out Boy thing with those two newsletter writers, I was like, oh, I'll write one, but I'll do it about like Folie à Deux or some shit like that. I really didn't have, because I didn't have any like really emotional attachment to Infinity on High as much as those other people, did and do. I more have emotional attachment to like Folie à Deux and Mania, to be 100% honest.
I mean, I've seen your newsletters. Like, yeah, I get it. But also, Infinity on High is still my preferred Fall Out Boy record.
I will be 100% honest. I did not come around to Infinity on High until I was like halfway through my undergrad degree.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really has no emotional attachment for me as much as like other people.
Fair.
And that's what I really want to convey here, because I went and I started writing about Fall Out Boy and how like they're like my favorite band and everything. And then I kept writing and I thought about it, and I started writing a completely different newsletter and a completely different narrative. And I was like, wait a second, this isn't what I wanted to do. Cause now I'm talking about like My Chemical Romance, for example. I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. But then I started to feel better as I started writing it out. And I felt like it was more cathartic, because at least for that one newsletter, it's talking about something I've never really talked about with anybody before in my life, because it's such a heavy topic for me. And it's something I've never learned to properly cope with.
Sure.
And it was stuff that I had been talking with like through therapy for years about, because it's been such a consistency in my life since I was so little, that is kind of all that I know in like kind of a fucked up way. But for me to be able to put it down and express my emotions so people don't keep thinking, or dispels the fact that I'm not this weird, creepy, proverbially sad and angry person. It's more of like the fact that I have had to process and have had a consistent encounter with like death and dying. For me, a lot of like the culture, like saying like the alternative, so like we have like skulls and shit and whatever. I mean, like I have like this.
You can reach on anything.
It pops
desk.
out.
Yeah.
Like I have a skull here and everything. And multiple. But yeah, everyone's always like, that's weird. Especially now I'm like 25, and everyone's like, this is a phase you grow out of, and like, why are you still kind of weird
it's
like
really
this?
Not.
And it's really not, guys.
It's how you grew up. Like it's how you're gonna be.
Exactly. Like you're going to change a little bit, but it's always going to be there.
It's just going to get better and more refined. It's going to refine over time.
Age. It's going to age like really good cheese.
Right. Emo is a cheese. Yeah. Emo is a cheese, not a wine, not a whiskey, a cheese.
I just wanted to throw it out to see it, be like, okay, nobody's really used like cheese before, but cheese is like really good.
Yeah. But also it's cheese.
Like aged cheddar cheese fucking hits. Like sharp cheddar aged cheese fucking hits.
Listen, I like a lot of food that's aged. I like a lot of it. Prosciutto's really good. Like aged meats, like dried meats. Kimchi as a fermented food. You got all this like aged stuff that's ferment, whatever. But when you're like, yo, you know what? When I'm talking like, how does this shit, like, how does this emo shit get refined? Oh, like cheese. This is like a refined cheese. Oh, it's like the better it gets, the more it's like cheese. I just wanted to do like a quick like turn. Yeah.
Go really far, like.
Unfortunately, the turn is taking a lot longer than you wanted it to. Your turn really took a turn. Well,
but with newsletters, at least that one that I had written, it felt very like releasing for me because I've always wanted to write things about it. And I had like in my like notes, I've had things I've written down, like, you know, paragraphs that I just had or things that I've written down in my journal and everything for years concerning this topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I never showed it to anybody. I never talked explicitly to anybody about it. So to kind of put it out there, I was like, well, I kind of want people to care, but also I feel so much better that if it's just like my friends who see it, maybe it's going to help them understand me more and like kind of like why I'm like this, basically, in a way.
Yeah.
And it had actually really good response to people, which I was very surprised about. Like last week, we said that somebody had tipped and said that it was very helpful for them in like coping with the death of one of their family members. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Like I never really thought that that would be something. So with going forward with it, I kind of want to keep doing it just for my own personal sense, because obviously not everyone's going to vibe with it. You can try and entangle music with it as much as you want it to. But if it kind of like works as a coping mechanism for you at the end of the day, and maybe it is only your friends or family or whoever the fuck you want to read it, it's better in the long run to just do it instead of just kind of festering with it, because that's not going to help you. And so I kind of see newsletters as also like a creative outlet just for people who are seeking a way to just say whatever it is that they want to say or like need to say and get out to. So, you know, you can do it for your own personal need, but if you're going to be like advertising it and be like, hey, like I have a newsletter, like this is what it is, and you're promoting it and everything, obviously do it. If you're like a writer, you're trying to get income, or you're just trying to like test the waters and see, maybe you're going from one form of writing to a creative form of writing, definitely try it. I think it's fun. It's cool. Obviously, if you don't stick with it, then it's not your vibe. But at least for me, it's been very helpful with me processing a lot of emotions and feelings that it's been very difficult for me. And just overall, I can get my own opinions out too. I don't have to worry about pitching to like a magazine or a newspaper and then being worried about I'm not being objective enough. I'm, you know, showing too many sides, but not enough sides. You know, you don't have to worry about it because it's yours and you're just doing it for you. So it's really cool to kind of see it as like a self-care way in a sense, but also it's for your professional life if you want it to be.
Lizzie, would you believe that in Sturgis, South Dakota, they were like, you know, what would be like really necessary for us to do right now is have a Smash Mouth concert.
You know, I do believe, honestly, Brian, because there's also a biker rally going on there for some godforsaken reason.
Here's the thing about this story is that what part of it is not like, what part of it is surprising, what part of it is shocking, what part of it is unbelievable. Like there's no part of this that makes zero sense. All of it is like, yep. Like you can't hear Smash Mouth plays a show during a pandemic where nobody is social distancing, no one's wearing masks in South Dakota for a biker rally. Like no one hears that story and goes, what? I can't believe. And then if I say, oh, Trapped was there, you're like, of course Trapped was fucking there. Like, of course Trapped was fucking there.
They have to be. They legally have to be at this
Trapped
point.
cannot play anywhere. Like, they're getting boycotted from a bunch of venues. But you
Not
know
Brower House Lombard. They are playing next month.
Brower House, respect to you. We had a nice experience there playing there, but like, you should cancel that. Trapped is objectively a bad person and a bad band.
The whole band is a persona, and all of them in there are just bad.
They're using the main Twitter account. They're not even like doing it from the singer's not tweeting from his own personal account. He's tweeting from the band account. Like
he probably didn't even consult with the band and be like, hey,
absolutely
is it okay if I tweet this out?
No.
Like you do in a partnership when you are in a band or like a podcast per se. And you just like, no, full send. We all probably think the same thing. And if you don't, you can leave the band.
And also leave the band.
Please actually leave the band. Do yourself a favor.
How's your Pandora streams? But I wanted to talk about this story a bit because there's a part of me that is like excited about the idea that people are figuring out ways to do music. And then I'm like, but are you like, is this is what? Like, I don't think no one is arguing the point that like we don't want music and we don't want to figure out a way. We don't want to make it the safest, most comfortable way that we can do it in this situation we have currently, where we won't cause undue pressure on the medical system, undue pain and suffering for families and people who go. And like, we want to provide these outlets of what music has provided to all of us. But like, stop trying to do it now. Like, our country has had such a bad response to this pandemic that the concept that you'd be like, oh, we're just gonna do a concert is so unnecessary to me. Like, and we were talking before the recording about like how all of this shit with schools and restaurants and all this businesses, like, we have to open, we have to make some money because there are people that have no resolution when there is no work to do. There are people that are just straight up not going to be making any money, and there's nothing we can do because there is no way we can make income. So certainly I am sympathetic to that, but like, the reason that it's not happening is the reason that is because it's not right to do. Like, that's the reason. That's why we're not doing it. There's no reason that it's like, oh, we decided not to do this and we could. Because the reason we decided not to do this because we should not do it. So I mean, maybe I'm sure you feel the same way as me because we've had people on talking about how concerts are closed down and it's negatively affecting the music economy for sure. But like, why is it that all of these, like, I'm hesitant to say right wing, I'm hesitant to say Republican, I'm hesitant to like toss all of these labels onto this. But in a let's say lower population state like South Dakota, in a more like rural area, in a place where bands like Smash Mouth and Trapped and Lita Ford and Buck Cherry are
good old Buck Cherry
are playing concerts in front of an outdoor crowd that's not social distancing, not wearing masks. Like, why?
I think it's just a bunch of people, because I had to pull audio for work of people at that bike rally pre-Smash Mouth. And
before they got smashed.
Yeah, before they got smashed in the mouth. God. And they were saying, oh, I just don't think it's a big deal. I have a mask and I'll try to stay far away, but I don't think it's a big deal. They legit just do not fucking care. It's pretty much what it is. They don't care. Those people at that biker rally, they don't care.
Like, do you think that like it's not happening in Chicago? Although I do know that like some things have happened, drive-in shows, things like that.
Right. There have been some, I know, in the south suburbs of Chicago, in like Blue Island and in like Beverly, there has been some shows at like dive bars happening with like small local bands, which in a sense I get, but at another sense, it still kind of rubs me the wrong way because there's so many other local bands too who aren't doing that because of like safety precautions. But y'all just decide to do it because you just think it's chill. I don't get it.
Is this a sense of like where certain people, because I think that it's interesting, again, not to attach labels to it, but like in certain areas with certain demographics, you're saying, fuck it, we're going to do this, right? So these communities have gone full fuck it, and they're like, we're doing it no matter what. We you know, and we look at it and we go, all right, well, of course they're doing it. Like, of course that community's doing it. But if Chicago said, hey, outdoor concerts are fine, these are the regulations, you have to stay within this, you can do whatever you want, right? If that happened in Chicago, would we feel differently? And I don't think you and I necessarily would feel very differently. I think that we are on board with like, I'd rather not do it now so that we can do it sooner.
Yeah.
You and I probably are not at peak fuck it yet. We're at like we're like medium to low fuck it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as we have something to do, I think we're at like that medium to low fuck it.
Yeah.
The point where we run out of things to do is when we're gonna be
we're
like,
gonna rise
we're
up
just
to peak
gonna
fuck
go.
it. Yeah.
Fuck it.
Like
let's
maybe
just
that's
go.
like maybe that's more like where these communities are, is like we have no outlets. We have nothing else that we can find to do. You've canceled all of these things. We can't go to stores for so long. We can't do this. We can't do that. And people are very willing to say, yeah, it's fine. Let's go. Fuck it. And here we're still like, no, we understand that we are going to be able to do things sooner if we do not say fuck it right now. Yeah. And I personally, being a musician, would not sign up to play a show. Like if somebody was like, hey, do you want to play? I'd be like, no, we're not playing in front of a crowd. We're not putting other people, like the band can be safe. Smash Mouth is like, don't you worry, guys. We had a full, we had things on our rider for COVID precautions that they took into full consideration. They had their own COVID precautions that they did. Like, don't you worry. And it's like, I'm not worried about Smash Mouth. My concern at no point in this conversation was about fucking Smash Mouth. My concern is about people who are at peak fuck it saying, cool, I'm a go, because you're putting on the event. You are facilitating this event for people, and I'm peak fuck it, so I'm going to it. Like you are as the proprietor of a location, as a proprietor of a venue, outdoor, indoor, whatever, like saying, if I'm going to build it, they will come to it. So therefore I'll build it and they'll come to it. And I think that's where like this disconnect between like Smash Mouth is like, as an artist, like I'm of course responsible for being there and then providing the service to them. And if I am providing a service, people are going to come. So I think it's like, as an artist, you have a responsibility to say, this is not safe. I should not be doing this. That's how I feel about Smash Mouth and Trapped.
I mean, how do you feel though? Because I know that there's a lot of things, a lot of nightlife and events and shows going on down in Texas, and they have one of the highest COVID rates, and they are struggling so much to get it under control.
It's a correlation.
I was about to ask, do you believe it's a correlation? But also these are happening in like Austin, Texas, traditionally like liberal area. Same thing with Houston. That's, I think, is a bit more moderate.
Generally,
but they're still happening in like these kind of city suburb areas, kind of similar to what we have in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily near like the rural parts.
Right. And that's why I'm so hesitant to put like a belief system on a location. I'm hesitant to put a belief system on a political view. Like, I don't think this thing cares about politics. Like, I don't think that's what matters here. So like putting that label, putting that on them, I think is unfair to do to the people who probably have different ways of looking at it and probably like are not all agreeing on the same reasons. I don't think that everybody who went to the show doesn't believe that COVID is happening, doesn't believe that masks help. I don't believe that that's everybody. I believe there were people there who were wearing masks who were like, it's happening, so I'm going to go. And I would assume that's probably the same thing everywhere, but it is also like local leadership that says we are monitoring how our positivity rate, which is the way that you should measure it, not how many cases, but the positivity rate of testing, because America, United States, the country, has the highest positivity rate in the world right now, I believe. Whether that's true or not, I'm saying it. Stop getting it. Stop going outside. So it feels to me that like these governorships, these local people that are in charge of these things, allowing it to happen and not monitoring the case of like, what is our positivity rate in what I can control, and then passing laws and regulations on what can happen now and when it can happen again. You also have places that are not necessarily barring travel from other, like Illinois has barred travel from certain states. And if you come in, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So it's saying that like, hey, we are taking the right steps, that we're taking the steps we believe is right based on science, information from health officials, those kind of things to make these decisions. None of them are saying, yeah, fuck it, have an outdoor concert. So if local governments are saying, we're not going to pay attention to this shit. We're going to allow these things to happen under these regulations. Then like you're going to see a rise in cases from those things. I also don't think there haven't been enough concerts to say this is the reason. Like it's not concerts, it's people at peak fuck it that are doing whatever they want to do, going to a beach, going to parties, hanging out with more than a certain number of people, those kind of things, not getting tested, not like finding out, not contact tracing, not just like avoiding these situations. I'm sure we'll see in the next couple of weeks, like how many cases or how many positivity results we get from schools reopening in certain states. So, I mean, it's not concerts. It's definitely not outdoor concerts that are causing spikes in certain states, but local regulation would be like 100% a major factor in reducing positivity rates and then also allowing these things to happen in a much safer environment. And I don't think that's not labeling. That's just like, if you're making the right decisions based on science and health officials, we can have concerts sooner and then you don't have to cause more problems. You can solve the problems. You fucking morons. I can't be too nice to people that I'm like, you're not doing the right thing for so long. I'm like, hey, let's give you the benefit of the doubt. You can make the right choice. It's like, no, you're being a fucking moron right now. All right, new music. We have some recommendations. I have one.
Love it. So proud.
Joji and Diplo put out a new song called Daylight. I really like it. I'm a big fan of Joji. It's kind of like sad, droning, dance, poppy music. So, of course, I'm into it. Lizzie, you go ahead. And a couple of these I'm going to respond to. So
Barty Strange, he came out with a new single, Boomer. And also, Ryan Reynolds actually started posting on his Instagram about Barty Strange and how much he loves his music.
Interesting.
So his like vinyl has been like selling out because of Ryan Reynolds, I feel.
Wow.
Because not only the music he's been putting out is really good, it's kind of like dreamy, it's still emo, but it's a little bit of kind of like rap, but not so like overtly like traditional rap. It's kind of like a good mix of everything. And I really like it. And the fact that Ryan Reynolds is super into it and keeps posting about it on his Instagram is probably like fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So there's that. So you should check that out. I think his LP comes out within the next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact date, but you can go check him out on Twitter, Instagram, or hit up Ryan Reynolds' Instagram to find out more. The other one that I am also vibing with from Bandcamp Friday, which was last Friday, I actually bought my first piece of digital music online for the first time in probably like, I am not shitting you, probably like 12 or 13 years. And it's a Blink-182 cover compilation. So there's Blink-182 covers of from Joyce Manor, Retirement Party, Adult Mom, and a bunch of different other like indie underground bands doing their own takes on different Blink-182 songs.
Very
so
nice.
Adult Mom did a cover of Josie, so it's kind of like synthwave bedroom pop. And I was like, it was only $5, and I'm pretty sure it's still $5 to pay whatever you want. And then you can just get it whenever on your Bandcamp. So definitely if you are a big Blink-182 fan, or if you want to hear it with a different take, because maybe you don't like Blink-182 as much or whatever. Really. Blink-182 is, take it or leave it at this fucking point.
It's so much better than the new song they put out. Quarantine is
100%.
Is objectively not good. It's not a good song.
I don't think I met one person who was absolutely like, yes, I love this song. I've heard people just say, this song is out.
Bad song.
Bad song. But what's not a bad song, or any really bad songs at all, is the Scott Pilgrim versus the World vinyl reissue. Hell yeah.
It's the 10-year anniversary, and they're putting out the version of Black Sheep, the song by Clash at Demon Head, from the movie, not the Metric version, which no shade on Metric and their version of it.
No, Metric is great. Go listen to Metric if you haven't listened to Metric.
But like the version from the movie is so good, and I'm very excited that they're putting it out 10 years later.
Yes.
Edgar Wright has been posting a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and he posted the announcement of this. So check out his Instagram. The behind the scenes stuff is awesome.
And then the last one that I'm really psyched about is Valencia is reissuing for the 10-year anniversary of Dancing with a Ghost. on vinyl for the first time ever. So like not really new music, but you can finally have this album on vinyl. And I really like Valencia a lot. So I saw that and I was very hype about it.
Yeah, so enjoy the tunes and Blink-182 do better. Finally, I think that like, you know, we are a new we're a music podcast, we're a new music podcast, we're a news podcast, and like it's not genre specific to us here at the Emo Social Club, but Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's song WAP has been just really on the news way more than I think it should be. Although I think we talked that we both agree with the message of it, but I have not actually listened to the song. Lizzie, you have. If you want to give us a review of the song.
So it kind of opens up with a backing track of saying there's hoes in this house. And I had to stop and restart the song because I was like, what the fuck are they saying in here?
Hold on, let's rewind.
And I was like, excuse me? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's it. Because I had only read about what had happened. I'm probably like a good 5 days late to listening to the song. So I've seen all the discourse online. So I was like, okay. Then I'm listening to it more. And I was like, okay, I guess I understand. It is very overtly sexual. I was like, okay, whatever. And I was thinking, because a lot of the criticism that was coming from the lyrics specifically were that they were too overly sexual. But I'm listening to it and I'm like, why does this just sounds like any other like popular pop song or popular rap song that I've ever heard? It's just like women saying it more so. And I think it's also because I definitely could be wrong. I don't know. I really don't listen to rap or hip hop that much. So I think it's like one of the very first that has been very popular in the last so many years that has been that explicit with like sexual themes and terminology that I think so many people were like, what is this in general? But also at the same
from a woman? Is that?
Yeah, from a woman, from two women.
That's the criteria that I've been hearing so much about, is that it's women being overtly sexual in a world where we only accept men being overtly sexual. Oh, yeah,
of course. I mean, I was thinking, I'm like, we listened to Lollipop by Lil Wayne and the cover by Framing Hanley, me specifically only.
We don't need to give Framing Hanley any free press on this podcast.
Oh my God.
We don't need to.
But I was thinking back to that and I'm like, well, that's pretty... Yeah, that was pretty like not like overtly, but it was pretty like heavily inferred of what it was talking about. Big time, obviously. Yeah. And then just thinking about any other song that was probably popular, like, you know, at school dances that we went to in like the mid to, you know, late 2000s.
Right. That's when I went to high school too. It wasn't, but sure. Jesus Christ. I mean, I was like, oh yeah, you know, like Little John, Get Low, like that was like, what the fuck are we listening to? And it's like, oh, okay.
Are you sure that wasn't just because it was Lil Jon?
First of all, that song is a modern classic. That song will last the test of time. But certainly for a high school age person, I'm like, hey, I don't get this, but nobody stopped it from being played at the fucking school dance.
It wasn't the Kids Bop version either.
It was not. It was the kids shouldn't know about how to bop version. Kids be bopping version. I mean, obviously, like the discourse on it has entirely been around like comparing females being overtly sexual to males being overtly sexual, especially in the context of hip hop, especially in the context of mainstream media. And I'm like, yeah, that's the argument. It's like all of these scenes, all of these music scenes especially have been primarily male dominated. And I mean, nothing to say about how many songs we hear about a dude talking about his dick. And then like, why are we hearing why is this okay? And why are guys like, yeah, that's awesome. And then like a girl sings about her parts. And then I don't know what we're saying. I don't know what we're like, how like we say people are dicks. So I'm like, I'm just repeating the word dick. Like, that's fine. But I'm like,
well, here's the thing. It kind of comes with the same thing though, because like we censor ourselves so much about like the female body parts.
Yeah.
So what WAP stands for, because I didn't realize what WAP stood for, because I would just see it and I'm like, what?
Yeah. Anthony
and
Fantana had to tell me.
I saw it written down and I was like, oh, so what it stands for other people who may not know by now, it stands for wet ass pussy.
You like really, your volume was not loud on that one. You're like, and your enunciation went up and your volume went down. You're like hitting the T's and the P's, but you're like, I don't want to hit them too loudly. I don't want it to be too loud. The T's and the P's are loud, but the volume is soft.
But the fact that they are talking about wet ass.
You literally called me out for not saying it. I'm like, not using terminology, and it's like, yeah, we've existed in this culture where like this terminology is seen as inappropriate, while male genitalia terminology is seen as appropriate, and like call me out for it, and then you're just like, hey, do you mind if I just whisper the female terminology? Like,
well, that's the thing too, though, because it goes in hand with, even as women, we can't even talk about our own body parts without having to censor,
right?
Because we feel uncomfortable and conditioned to be uncomfortable about it.
We are an example. We are not breaking the stigma. We are like, hey.
We're examples, and we're trying to break the stigma, but we're scared.
But also, like, this is me, like, personally, I'm like, I feel awkward saying, like, certain words, like, I don't want to. Like, certain words is like, nah, dude, whatever.
P-N-Y-S.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Lizzie needs to learn how to spell before she starts spelling out loud. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in the boat that, like, there are male-dominated scenes where, like, therefore, we are fine with speaking openly about male sexuality, because that is looked at as either something to be honored or something that is fine in the open. Not going to argue about, rape culture and all these kind of things, like how it kind of makes certain things okay and other things not. But certainly I am fine with women putting their sexuality on display in order to try to break that stigma, because we've seen how people have reacted to it and have perpetuated the stigma and created more stigma around it. That's great. Literally just, I mean, I won't say anything about how I believe that it's all playing into a promotional narrative that is beneficial to both sides of the promotional narrative. It's made it a popular song while also promoting people who speak negatively about the song, perpetuate stigmas about females. So that's great.
Oh my God.
I can only be sarcastic about it, because I'm just like, it seems pretty obvious. Like, it's a big news story, so I feel like we wanted to comment on it, but obviously everybody already has the main takes, and we don't really need to give those takes about like celebrities or mainstream political
a lot
pundits.
Of the takes are pretty what you would assume, or what we've already talked about. And I think the other thing that people were not happy about was that Kylie Jenner was in it.
Yeah,
to the point where people were literally writing, like signing petitions to get her removed from the video.
Doesn't work that way, guys, by the way. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand the reasoning behind it. I'm not entirely sure.
I can only assume
on that
it's
front,
because she's a white woman in a celebration of black women. I'd be like, yeah, I understand your concerns here.
Yeah, okay, then I can get
that. Also, like, it was already decided, and Cardi B like went to Twitter and like was defending her on it.
She also deleted that
I know,
tweet.
Which I'm like, Cardi B, I don't like that you back down. You're the person that doesn't back down. Whether you're right or wrong, you don't back down. And that's what we appreciate about you. You once told Tommy Lahren you would dog walk her, so I like you. I like you. Yeah, I was curious. Maybe we can speak on this for a little bit, because it is something to consider of our own scene and how male dominated the emo music scene is as well, and how there are a lot of songs talking shit about women, being very, in some cases violent, in some cases inciting of violence, in some cases explicit more, I'd say more on the violent end than on the sexual end. There's not a lot of sexual promiscuity and
Yeah,
that
not
in our
more.
scene.
I mean, there's a few songs
Attila.
like obviously like I Can Get Sexual Too from Say Anything, but
Yeah.
in general, I don't feel like there's that many more like sexual innuendo type songs. It's more of like, hey, I wanna like go and cuddle and then maybe
fucking hold hands. I want to fucking hold hands. And you know, to that point is like, is it okay within our scene that it is male dominated, being in one way aggressive towards women in a separate way than you know, in the rap community or rap music? It's more aggressive of like breakups and she broke my heart and she's a bitch and I hate her and all this. And I don't know if there is space for women to speak in the same way about men. I don't know if there is space to be as understanding about the content and the context of it from women. And I don't know if women necessarily even want to do the same type of material, if they want to write the same thing.
I think that it's wanting to be done, and I know there have been newer artists that have been doing it, but they get such negative backlash because it seems as they're like boy bashing. But they aren't looking at the inherent culture that is pop punk and it being so male dominated that it's so secreted into the subculture that it's normal to have these, you know, traditionally all male pop punk lineups, you know, complaining about their girlfriends or their exes or whomever the fuck it is, and then saying like, oh, you left me and I'm mad, because that's what we want out of that genre. That's why we come to this genre. So because that's embedded in it as kind of like a prereq for pop punk for the most part, I think this is also why we don't see a lot of women, and we only see really like Hayley Williams primarily as like the main pop punk front woman in this scene, honestly, is because, you know, she rose up talking about general, you know, love and heartbreak. She was never like saying like, oh boy, you suck, or like my boyfriend sucks. It was, whereas you can listen to like, you know, a Blink-182 songs like, oh, my girlfriend blah blah blah, or, you know, any other songs like, oh my god, like, and they gender it. When they gender it, that's when you start to see disconnect from the male community. If it is like a woman or a non-male person, a non-binary person, you know, singing whatever song it is, that's when people get up in arms, is what I've tended to notice. But even with Hayley Williams, like, you have Paramore and you don't have it gendered. You have it like where anybody can be like, yeah, like, I'm pissed off at like my ex or my significant other or whomever, and everyone can vibe with it. But when she came out with Petals for Armor on her own, away separate from Paramore, that you do get that, because obviously everybody knows that her and Chad Gilbert from New Found Glory broke up. So that's like a general knowledge for people who usually like Hayley Williams or Paramore in general.
Right.
And you listen to that and you know that it's a call out to him. You know it's a call out to a male. But I feel because her music does sound more soft and indie, that it's more accepted. And I feel that that's why there's a lot more thriving female and non-binary indie musicians now, rather than in like the pop punk and emo scene, because it's just so deeply ingrained within our subculture that it has to be about like your girlfriend who pissed you off, who fucked you over, who you cheated on or did whatever. Because that's just what we expect, because that's kind of what it was born out of at the end of the day, when we look at like these pop punk pioneers. And I think that it's so hard to remove it from there, especially when you just keep seeing these pop punk bands with a bunch of dudes just popping up like wildfire. And they're all pretty much, they at least have one song talking about how their ex screwed them over, or how they're mad at their ex, or they're getting back at their ex doing something crazy. So I think it's just because there is such, I don't even know if it's right to say it's straight up misogyny, or if it's more of people want to be accepted within a pop punk community. Therefore, they think that in order to do so, they have to present this type of song or this type of theme consistently to be seen as such within that scene. But that's just my hypothesis. Really, it comes down to everything being gendered.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day.
I really like that as a summary. It's, I think we need more women to be making music. I think it needs to be gendered. Women and non-binary, let's put it that way. Cisgender men. And speaking in gendered terms. However that is for you, like having less of this, men can gender their songs, men can put a song out about a woman, but women, non-binary, other genders cannot put a specific title on the person they're talking about. And I think that is, until we start doing that, we won't have this more open culture within our subculture. Well, thank you guys for checking out this episode of the Emo Social Club podcast. We hope you are enjoying what we're doing here, what we're all about. Hope you're liking it.
Hope you like what we're putting out and that you're taking in, hopefully.
Hopefully we're not talking too much shit about your favorite band, Smash Mouth, to make sure you come back to listen to us again next week. Well,
they don't stop coming until they don't stop.
They don't stop coming until they stop coming. God damn it, Lizzie. We'll be back next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on Twitch. Every Monday, our podcast is live. I am Brian.
And I am Lizzie.
And goodbye. Subscribe and follow and do all the good stuff. We love you. Goodbye.